Well, in breaking news, the Sox have a new stadium name. That's right, not a new
Name.
stadium, just a new stadium
Oh,
name. And
damn.
interestingly enough, it's the new name of the stadium is really the nickname of the stadium that was brought upon by Chicago radio and fans. Guaranteed Rate Field to all of us became Let's Go to the Rate. Everyone kind of liked Let's Go to the Rate. It sounded way better than Guaranteed Rate Field.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
great. I mean, that's choosing between two height contest between two midgets, I guess. But or
yeah,
however that phrase goes. But
that's
the rate
offensive,
was definitely
Smitty.
better than than saying guaranteed rate field.
Yes.
It's only marginally better now. It might be even weirder though. Now that it's officially called rate field, which I thought was that's even more awkward in a way. Like guaranteed rate. I guess people knew what that was called. It's a Chicago company. Our buddy Joe actually works there for guaranteed rate, but they changed their name to rate this past year, and that story is actually a little bit interesting. They rebranded this past season, maybe coincidentally, or maybe because of a rather newsworthy sexual harassment scandal involving a lot of the top level management at Guaranteed Rate. That was a big story this summer. I don't know how big it was, but it was definitely publicized. So I don't know if they changed their name to kind of subliminally trick people. It's like, oh no, that was those guys over there. We're now just Rate or whatever they're called. So I don't know. It's just another layer to it. Of course, their logo is still a downward pointing arrow, which is very unfortunate.
Well,
But
but accurate.
also, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Unfortunate yet accurate depiction of what has happened to the White Sox fortune since they signed the deal with Guaranteed Rate. Uh, yeah, Rate Field. Just,
Yeah.
of course. Go ahead.
Well, no, I had a weird theory. Like, do you think honestly, the truth is what you just said. I'm sure that's why they changed their name. But a little more fun. Do you think, I was like, did Chicago sports radio and White Sox fans push this organization into a name change because it sounded so much better, but then they took the off and ruined it? But
Huh?
was it pressure? Was it this unforeseen pressure from all of White Sox Nation and Chicago Sports Radio that had a whole company change their name, not because of sexual harassment lawsuits,
Yeah.
but because of the power of the people?
Well, my only response to that is nothing in life is guaranteed.
Boo. If only we had the buzzer from the dryer right now.
Well, that got me to thinking like we've basically abandoned calling Sox Park anything it's been called officially for 30 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, so I thought maybe we should rank either the nicknames or combine that with the nicknames and the official names of Sox Park since its debut in 1991. Um, I put my list together. I just put the nicknames down. I just did it there. I just call it Sox Park. I've called it forever. I just call it Sox Park. Everyone knows what you're talking about. I don't know if I picked that up from you or if that's what Sox fans have always called it, or just it just makes sense to me. Just Sox Park. It sounds good. It's easy to say. It just makes sense. There's no
I have
ambiguity.
Yeah, I have to look at it, Smitty, but I actually think my opening day ticket in that game against the Tigers that I have in like this commemorative little stand they gave
Yeah, yeah.
us, I think it says Sox Park on it.
It was not called New Comiskey at that point or anything like
No,
that.
no, no, that was always like a fan thing. I
Well,
always felt like,
that's actually on my list here of it's down the list a little bit, but that's one of my favorite nicknames of the new Comiskey Park. I thought the second best name was just combining the first sponsor, US Cellular, uh, Comiscular. I thought it was a really clever way to like kind of sum up how ridiculous corporate sponsorships are, but it
yeah,
kind of still make an homage to the history of the White Sox. US Cellular, is that even around? It can you buy a US
I don't.
cellular service
I'm
or
not.
phone?
I have no idea. I don't think I've seen a U.S. Cellular advertisement in
I
forever.
they may have just gone bankrupt, and that's why Sox had to find a new partner. Eventually, guaranteed rate. Eventually, rate. Um, uh, U.S. Cellular. It made sense. I think it was a Midwest company. I'm not sure if it was founded in Chicago. It was either Chicago or Iowa, or it was definitely Midwest. So
Their corporate offices were in that like business center right in Rosemont, like off the
okay, so
highway there. So
yeah,
yeah.
so it's a Chicago company. That made sense. But U.S. Cellular, U.S. Cellular Field. I mean that's it's not the worst corporate sponsor. It was fine. It's actually not much different than Wrigley Field if you think about it. I mean, it's a
Right.
chewing gum with
Right.
field after it, so that wasn't the worst, but certainly not as bad as guaranteed rate or rate. Third on my list, and maybe I should have made this number two, is the cell.
The
Still
cell was
based.
great.
I mean, it's a cool thing. It makes you think of Cell Block 4, a prison sentence. There's some activities there that definitely led to people going to prison. Uh,
Yes.
it kind of fit the moment in the 2000s and 2010s. The Cell was just it just kind of summed it up pretty perfectly, and it kind of mocked U.S. Cellular at the same time, but the Cell just made sense. New Comiskey. Did you ever call the
No.
news? That's one thing I heard for a while, and I think that went away pretty quick. Probably as soon as U.S. Cellular started. I forget what year they actually started, but I mean, you're probably there probably had to be names for it, like you said, maybe Sox Park, like on that ticket you had. That would make sense if they just abandoned the name Comiskey altogether at that point. So there's no ambiguity. It's just Sox Park versus the old Comiskey.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the day that the wrecking ball hit Comiskey Park was done. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, it's not. If it was called Sox Park, then fine, call it Sox Park again. That's fine. But that was a shitty owner. The park was named
yeah.
after,
That's the
and
thing.
and and
People,
and and the way that people like, I still call it Comiskey T-shirts and that. Why? He
yeah,
sucked.
he was a dirtbag,
Yeah,
and
it'd be like having
people.
Reinsdorf Park. Would anyone support Reinsdorf Park? No fucking way.
That's a great point. Yeah, people want to pay homage to history, even though they don't know the history potentially or know the connotations of. But they just like to hold on to retro shit for the sake of it, but not
Yeah,
realizing potentially that Comiskey was a piece of shit. He wouldn't pay his players. I mean, that led
yeah,
to the whole Black Sox scandal.
yeah.
So
I mean,
why continue to honor that douchebag?
yeah, I mean, if you want to name it appropriately, just name it the '05 White Sox Park or Canerco Stadium or like one of those. I mean, that would be at least enduring to some degree. You know what I mean? But and I'm joking because I that none of that is good. But
Yes.
like at least it would make more sense for people to be so upset because they didn't rename it Comiskey. Like when Jerry dies, if they actually were to name this place Reinsdorf Park, their probably attendance would drop even further.
You know what they're gonna do is they're gonna sell it to some other mediocre company, may or may not be headquartered in Chicago. That'll be the name of the field or the name of the stadium, but it's gonna be Reinsdorf Field, as we've
Mm,
seen as we've seen multiple sponsorship deals with.
yes.
Actually, that's happened involving my local Lansing Lugnuts. We had a name for the Cooley Law School Stadium, which is a ridiculous name, but the field was sponsored by Jackson Life Insurance. So we made like $10 million off of that somehow. So that would not surprise me if somehow Jerry Reinsdorf's name is it's going to be involved somewhere here or there. So we'll have to prepare ourselves for that.
I think we should just understand that a statue will be erected.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't matter. At least some
gotta
sort of
be.
memorial. He did bring us one championship.
He did. You remember it. I remember it. You can't take that away from him. So
No. ESPN may be able to, but no one else can.
now, yeah, ESPN consistently removes that championship
Yeah,
somehow. But
they hate it.
I put the rate as my least favorite nickname. We talked about it already.
Yeah.
I probably should have put New Comiskey as my least favorite since it was not even right. But
Yeah, I like the wasn't it Lawrence Holmes who came up with the rate? I feel
maybe
like it was.
he's come
Like,
up with lots of good things over the years. I was
yeah,
just listening to him this afternoon, actually.
Yeah, I think he was like the rate. Doesn't that sound better? And it's like, yeah, it does sound a lot
It
fucking
sounds
better.
better, but it still makes no sense. Where the cell actually had double connotations, which made really good sense.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Wordhole Media.